Good evening and welcome to the second round of our PPG IndyCar World Series Championship. Coming to you tonight from the Portland International Raceway and Budweiser slash G.I.Joe's 200. And I think it's officially in real life also presented by... It wasn't Texaco. Brain fade, as usual. Anyway, we're here at Portland International Raceway in the real life series. This would have been round 6, but with the track that was supposed to be upcoming at Long Beach, we felt that we wanted just a bit more time to get that up and ready and be at the same level as other circuits we use during our championships. Currently, I believe there is qualifying going on in the background. We will be going to track in a few moments' time. But before we do so, let's have a quick look at what the track looks like. The Portland International Raceway, as I mentioned, 1.915 miles. And the layout virtually unchanged all the way through from, I believe the first race was held for kart series anyway, races in 1984. And I believe the only real change in how it looks nowadays is at the first chicane, which is more of a 90 right into a more or less 120 degree left-hander to make a slightly longer and wider, tighter chicane, and up at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I would call it turn 8, the right-hander leading onto the back straight. That has a slightly different profile nowadays compared to what we will be seeing on track today. But our drivers will be going for 104 laps, equaling 200 miles. And the current points standings as such sees Vadim Tachak leading the championship on 22 points. He won the race last time out, he took pole position for 1 extra point, and he led the most laps, I believe, securing him 2 extra points on top of the 20 he got from first place. Richard Coxon is second in the championship on 16 points. Cesar Shlapinski third on 14 points. Tiago Canola fourth on 12 points. And Kyle Vesa, newcomer to ISO, did his debut at Phoenix last time out, is fifth in the championship standings at the moment on 10 points. And all of those bar Kyle Vesa at the moment is in the top 5 in the qualifying session currently going on. Just to remind ourselves as well of the specifics of this kart 1987 championship. There are a total of 3 chassis makers, those being Lola, March and Penske, with 2 different Lola chassis available, the T86 and the T87. The Marches have 3 different chassis, the very old by 87 standards 85C, and they also had the 86C and 87C, and Penske came out with their own chassis with the PC16. Apart from that, we also have 3 different engines in the back of these different chassis. There will be 2 additional engines, making it 5 for the Indy 500. But tonight we will be seeing Cosworth DFX V8s, the Ilmo Chevy 265A V8, and I believe 2 Brabham Honda V8s. We also have for the road courses fuel allotment as always, where for this race Each car is limited to 118 US gallons, or approximately 447 liters of fuel. The drivers will also have to contend with the tire situation of each driver having 4 sets of tires for the entire event, meaning that for the qualifying, warm-up and race, they will be having to think about how do they want to use their tires to get the best use out of them, both for the qualifying session, obviously, and for the race. Do you use all 4 tires in the qualifying session to try and set a pole position time, or do you use just one set, hope for one really good lap within, say, 4 laps, and then save the other 3 sets for the race? All of that is something we'll have to wait and see what the drivers come up with, as I am joined in the booth by Alberto Ibañez. Good evening, Alberto.
Good evening, Jonatan. Good evening, everybody. Pleased to be here as usual. Going to be an exciting evening of racing today.
It certainly is, and this track, like in real life in the last 2 years, I think, it's been very exciting, and I can't see any reason why we won't get some fireworks tonight as well in our race.
It's going to be a complicated race for the drivers. You already outlined the problems with the fuel consumption and the tire use, but we should also mention that Portland, even if it's a track that has a beautiful flow, it's also a very narrow track. And there are some points that are quite complicated to negotiate, especially when you're fighting with another car or when you're trying to lap another car. The last chicane before the start-finish straight is very complicated. It's a part where you enter at very high speeds, and it's exactly the last place you would really want to go side by side with someone.
Mm-hmm. And as we're talking about the track, let's actually ride on board with Brian, as I hope he'll do another lap here. Down the front start-finish straight. Goes quicker for 8th, and now into the first chicane, right, left, right. About a 3rd gear corner that. Down into a double apex right-hander. You can do this in 4th or 5th gear. All of these corners are crowned, by the way, so you need to be on the inside line. Down into this turn, which is a 3rd gear, and should be keeping it in 3rd. Try to stay tight, get a nice, easy run through. And up here into this very deceptive tightening right-hander, as we can see there, he runs wide on the tight line he had, onto the back straight. Looks like he is going to park it, so let's see if we have anyone else on the way to that section.
Yeah, well, I mean, this
not.
incident highlights the complicated nature of the track, I think, because it's like I said, it's a very flowing one, but you need to really set up properly the acceleration for the main stretch that is there on the back, and you also need to be very careful entering the chicane, so it's quite complicated in both ends.
For sure, and then you have that last corner where you really want to be on the gas early, but if you're on it too early, you understeer wide, and there's just enough grass out there to get you sideways if you touch it.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, with the crowned nature of the track, if, say for example, you run just a little bit wide, a little bit too fast into a corner, it's very tricky to get the car back on the racing line.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like Grand Ridol with a last gasp effort there, blasting into the pole position place.
Yeah, it doesn't really surprise me. I mean, Grant is a huge talent when it comes to road racing. I mean, he's not really that comfortable in ovals. He always says that for him, ovals are something that he needs to do, and he wants to get on with it and do as best possible. But he really feels at home at the road courses. So it's going to be an interesting championship, because you got some people here that are really good wild talents like Grant, but with a very definite inclination to the road courses. And then you have some people that will be very good in ovals, and then you got people that are equally good everywhere, like Coxon, Vadim, Jakes, and those are the ones that actually should be towards the end of the championship contending for it, because this is the thing that had IndyCar still has it, is that it's one of the most complete championships that you can have. More even so than Formula One, because Formula One, after all, just does one course, which is Monaco. Well, they more in modern days they do more. They go to Sochi and that they've been starting doing that. But I mean that mix between ovals, street courses, and road courses that was there in kart in the 80s in IndyCar, it was absolutely amazing. And it's going to translate obviously also here into our sim racing championship, because you need to be versatile and you need to be able to adapt to all the different challenges. Even between the ovals, you have the short tracks and the super speedways like Michigan, Indianapolis, Pocono. So it's, like I said, something that will really, really pay off for the more versatile drivers.
For sure. And it'll also definitely show which drivers has an affinity to working out and setting up the cars, because I don't think there's a single track where you can run the same setup that you did anywhere else.
No, there will be similarities, but certainly you need to work a lot. The people who, for example, Vadim are taking this season very seriously, are putting a lot of effort and many practice laps. It's paying off. That's very evident. I mean, if you got the talent and you work the hours, then you can be unstoppable.
Definitely so. But I'd reckon it's also a case of, in a way, if you do too many laps, maybe you're too confident, maybe you know too much, and then you overthink the situation on the race day and you make a mistake because you're thinking about so many different options that you miss the most obvious one.
Yeah, well, I think we all of us that have done some sim racing and have driven and all that know that there is some point. I mean, you learn, you get better, you improve, but there is some point where it's like you begin to stall, and it's like you don't progress anymore. And actually, if you continue practicing, it can even be detrimental. So yeah, it's a matter of finding the sweet spot. Although the sweet spot is usually after many, many, many laps. So, like I say, one thing is to really do too many laps in a single session, and then you get exhausted and you don't gain anything more. And another one is to be consistent, and really practice a lot and investigate how the car works and all that. And I think, for example, Vadim is one of those who has done the homework very well, same as David Jakes.
For sure. Now we finally have the cars out on track again, so the driver briefing is over.
Yeah, there's Grant now on track. We can follow him if you want.
And I believe that was Jason Fitch too. We'll let them go around. While we let them do that, let's have a quick look at the question for the evening. I don't think we'll have time during the race to look at it, so the question for tonight is: who won the first kart IndyCar race held at Portland on June 17th, 1984? Was it A. Al Unser Jr.? Was it B. Jeff Brabham? Or was it C. Theo Fabi? I gotta say, I got that question wrong, but I'll trust in our members to know better than me. Let's see, you said Grant was out on track, right? Let's see if we can find him. There he is. Perfect timing. Out onto the front straight he goes.
Yeah, here we go. Now into the chicane, which was more open here in the 80s than it was later when it was reconfigured. It's a very quick one. Left, right, left, right. So you need to avoid those curves, but now into this double apex one. This is one of the most beautiful corners here, in my opinion, because this double apex one really hits it. You now need to brake, be very careful in this twisty section, and especially in this next corner that is coming to the right after this one, because this is the one that sets you up properly for the backstretch, and that's one of the prime passing points. Here you go, nicely without touching the curve.
Really
this
nice.
Is you really can do this full throttle if you are careful enough, and here you are picking speed up to 160, 70
and breathe in.
And yes, you got now this chicane. This is very dangerous, very complicated. Look how he uses all the track to his tail. And now back to the main stretch. here taking care not to go beyond that white line. Pay attention to that white line, because he who goes past that line might hit the tire barriers.
And it's also something I noticed. I got the opportunity to do a few laps last night here around this place, and as we can see, they're up on the high curbs, and that's an immediate, oh dear, spin for Grant.
Yeah, he was obviously testing the limits here, and he found them.
But what I found was that you really need to be conservative in your driving, because if you try a bit too hard around these sweeping turns, you're liable to wear the tires quite a lot, maybe even overheat them, and then you're in all heaps kind of troubles.
Yeah, these are cars that really reward two things. First of all, is driving 90, let's say 95%, not more, not really like trying to twist the neck of the car. And the second thing is being very, very, very consistent. I mean, and that's the hardest thing. You need to be consistent, but not at the limit, but at 95%. And that's a 95% that is actually varying over the whole race. And as the state of the tires is changing, the brakes, everything. So you need a lot of feel for the car here. Well, here, everywhere, I mean, in this series. But in this track, with this twisty section, you can really overheat them without even noticing, because this, like I said, it has such a flow in nature that it's very easy to get enthused here and start like banging the car left, right, and all that, and then suddenly realizing that you got overheated tires.
Indeed. It's also interesting to see currently top 3. Let's see if Stevens is driving one of those too. Let's see, where is he? There we have him. No, so Lewis is the first of the non-March 87. So, Jon team, Richard Wilkes and I think Vadim Tachak, is he in the March too, I wonder?
Yes, in a March 87, yes.
He is. So, the top 4, I was going to say top 2, it was top 4, was all in March 87 chassis. And then there comes Kyle Weser, who I think is in the March 86. So the March chassis definitely looks to be the preferred chassis around this place at the moment. Which is another...
The March is a very balanced car. I mean, the Lola T87, for example, the one that Richard Coxon is driving in place of Bobby Rahal, it's a very good car, okay, but it has different treats. So it depends on how the driver gets on along with it. And it's probably also a car more intended for super speedways, because it's very aerodynamic.
And that's obviously another thing that the driver and drivers need to keep in mind. I mean, if you're in say the Lola 86, for example, which I think is even more of a oval specific car and chassis, then you really need to keep in mind that this is not the track where you are expected to win. You need to try and work on getting, say, a top 10 finish, and then work from there in terms of gaining where the chassis is a bit more at home. Oh, and that's interesting. Keo Michiel's up into 4th in this warm-up session. That's quite a bit of speed he's gotten out of that car.
Yeah, although you never know what amount of fuel the cars are using here. And the drivers could be testing anything. I mean, with worn tires, because they have the worn tires that they have been using in qualifying, I'm pretty sure that they are reserving the main sets for the race. So it's likely that they are all trying with low fuel to see what happens when you have got worn tires and low fuel as you would towards the end of the stint.
Definitely could be the case, and it's interesting. I'm now on board with KO, and we can hear a slightly different tune compared to both the Ilmore Chevy and the Cosworth, because this is one of the 2 Brabham Honda cars in the field. It's interesting to hear the slightly different note, and of course also I'd assume a slightly different way of driving the car, because I'd assume it delivers the power a little bit differently compared to how the Cosworth and the Chevy does.
Yeah, probably the smoothest one is actually the Brabham Honda. Then you got the Chevy, which is powerful, torquey, but also quite smooth. And then you got the Cosworth, the traditional Cosworth, which is an engine that is more violent. It doesn't have so much mid-range, and everything that it gives you is more peaky, more in the higher RPM range.
So very similar in power delivery compared to what the Cosworth had in the 70s as well then. So 10 seconds left now in the warm-up session, so this is the final laps for most of the drivers. Let's have a quick look and see if we have anyone who wasn't here last time out. I think Oscar Tim is a new one, brother of Jon, and driving the second Machinists Union entry. And Mateus de Silva is also first time out driver, I believe, in the Acerclinth racing car.
Yeah, we also got today Peter Blom. And also Brian Janik just jumped in last moment in the Gallus Racing Brabham car.
So that was Peter Blom's livery for this one. And you said, who did you say?
Brian Janik.
Oh, Brian Janik. Right.
Yeah, who joined Gallus Racing instead of Jason White, who did not race today. And here we go. We are set up for 104 laps.
Let's see if we can see. There's Brian. Let's just wait for him to join the grid. Or, in other words, wait for the game to synchronize up.
Yep.
Unfortunately, that's part of sim racing, where when you move to a session, it needs to load in everyone, and then they need to try and get everyone to the same general ping situation, so everyone is seeing everything at roughly the same time. Which I suppose you could see as the clerk of the course getting all the drivers to see how to drive the track in the same kind of way. Anyway, that's the Gallus Racing livery for Yannick.
I see still some empty spots. There you go. There are the rest of the cars. Plenty of cars. I mean, it's a big field today in this small track. So let's hope that everything goes swiftly. This Grant Ridal is hitting the tires, but is in front of the safety car.
There we go. So Grant Ridal takes pole position in the Craker Racing number 18, driven in real life by Michael Andretti. He wanted to win here this year because he was a new father back then, so I think the race took place on Father's Day in America. Vadim Tachak lines up second for RCL Racing, number 12. Richard Coxon third for True Sports. David Yates fourth for Doug Shearson Racing. Thiago Canola fifth for Newman Teamworks. Anders Nilsson sixth for Vince Granatelli Racing. He's racing tonight in place of
Anders Nilsson, you mean?
Yes, in place
He shares the car with Lee Moore. He's going to do the road courses.
Lee Moore unfortunately didn't partake. He was there to race, but unfortunately last-minute hiccups made it to where he couldn't race last time out. Richard Wilkes 7th, with Yannick 8th, Ray Ridal 9th, Jon Team runs out the top 10 with Kyle Vesa 11th, Cesar Slapinski 12th, Peter Blom 13th with David Saber 14th, Jus Bouchard 15th with Joabo 16th, Louis Stevens 17th with Jason Fitch 18th, Alberto Quino 19th with Adam Hackman rounding out the top 20 with Oscar Team 21st, Keo Michiels 22nd, Amaral 23rd, Da Silva 24th, Kowalski 25th, Brun Chacon 26th, Pagiola 27th, Alan Santo 28th, Luciano Roja I believe rounding out the grid in 29th. He is indeed, and now coming through the last turn to start this race.
There goes the safety car now into the pits.
Ooh, this is going to be scary for our drivers.
Let's look at what happens here in the first chicane. Oh, Vadim Tasiak too early on that. Maybe they were... They go. There they go. I thought they were maybe too optimistic overtaking the safety car in the pits, but no, here they go, coming to the first corner. And let's see if they thread it to the needle. Oh, my goodness, some smoking tires there, some cars hitting there. I think it's Mateo da Silva. Oh, they made it 3 wide through there.
Wow. So that's the full field trying to stream through the first
Oops,
chicane.
Adam Hackman and Mateo da Silva.
Oh no.
Joy. They tangled there. Yes, I think some issues here on cold tires.
Well, that's unfortunately Hackman round, and da Silva trying to get the car back up into gear, I think. There he goes, so we caught that in the background. Grant Ridol has held on to the lead with Tachak second, Yates third, Coxon fourth, Canola fifth, Nilsson sixth, Willich seventh, Ray Ridol eighth, and then the Hal Gagala cars coming through the kink. And now through the final chicane
already opening a gap, not leaving anything on the table here. His usual Fast and Furious style. I mean, he's absolutely determined to open a gap and then manage it. But Vadim Tafiak is having none of that. So behind them, Jakes has made it past Coxon. And we'll see how this pans out, because they are followed by Canola, Nilsson and Wilkes. All of them seem to have been able to keep the position. And it's, I would say, from the midfield downwards where we have seen more of the shifting.
Indeed, Oscar Tim with a good start. Now was looking up the inside of Peter Blom, who was held up in turn by Juha Bos in the first chicane, but Oscar decided to back out of it this early in the race and live to fight another day. That double apex right-hander turn 4 and 5 is you can pass there, but everyone needs to be compliant for that to work perfectly. Looks like Kowalski has made a few positions up during the rest of that first lap. Equino and Pagiola here. Indeed, Equino and Pagiola, both the Penske drivers running nose to tail, 25th and 26th. I believe Pagiola is in the Penske, while there's a spinner in the infield. Equino is in one of the other chassis cars. Jason
that
Fitch,
was Jason Fitch, actually.
Yep.
Yes.
So unfortunately, a very decent start, avoiding issues. That chicane has caught him out, which is understandable. That chicane is very tricky.
And it seems to me that Canola has overtaken Anders Nilsson.
Looks like it indeed.
Yeah. Slapinski now getting antsy behind Brian Janik.
Oh, he's been antsy a long time, and there he goes, I think.
There he goes. Whoops.
Ooh, just about.
Very talented pass. I mean, it looked quite sketchy, but in the end, he didn't even touch the car of Brian. Kyle Vesa there with a good run, trying to pass Ray Ridal. Finally decided that it was too risky doing it into the chicane, but it won't surprise me if he makes it now in the main straight. No. Ray has a good run out of there.
Ooh, Francisco Amaral with a hefty off in the chicane. I think he's spun, but has avoided the barriers, mounted the curb and span there. Oh, looks like he has some slight connection issues too. At the moment, but back to the action. Ray Ridal still holding
really
on.
At the front.
No, indeed, the racing, at least for positions for now, seems to be, as you say, 10th down. I suppose the one who could possibly be moving up a little bit is Slapinski, who's, I think, gained around 5 positions in these opening 4 laps. And Jon Team is looking a bit racy here with a good run out of that turn there, and definitely looking for a way round, but Bouchard very, very smartly puts the car in the middle of the road, and not much room to go anywhere for Jon Team there.
Now passing Bruno Chacon, who seems to be causing a bit of a traffic jam there in the backstretch. Kowalski is behind. And Little Al is able to leave the others behind in that point.
Oh no, Pagiola!
Oh yes, no.
That was a bit optimistic, I'm sorry to say.
Yeah, fortunately for Bruno, it wasn't a full spin, and he can move away and keep going.
And Hackman on a very dangerous line there, but I think he's able to make it through. You don't really want to be tight on the entry into that opening chicane. It becomes very tight.
So Slapinski is in fire, now overtook Richard Wilkes.
Wow.
And is in pursuit of Thiago Canola and Anders Nilsson. I'm really wondering about this because I don't know if he's using more boost pressure or he got fresher tires from what he did in qualifying. I'm not sure of that, but certainly he's putting a lot of pressure on the car.
Well, I know based on how Wilkes usually drives, he's a little bit on the careful side, but Slapinski definitely, a little bit wide through in that double right hand and nearly lost it as he ran a little bit wide onto the grass.
Don't want to touch the grass there. Whoa, Coxon getting very loose now also behind Jakes. Everybody's sliding around on greasy tires. They need to get up to temperature, but it's like Grant has set such a fast and furious pace out of the box that he's leaving everybody behind, and I think that he basically changed the plans of everybody because nobody wants to see him disappear off in the distance.
Indeed, and I would.
Look at Vadim. He was in the grass, and like I told you, careful, boys, because that white line makes all the difference in the world. If you are over it when you are coming out of the corner, you may very well end your racing the barriers.
Dearie me, that was very close. But yeah, that's right, and I think honestly with the pace they are going at, it's not a case of the tires still coming up to temperature. I think it's a case of them trying to keep the tires from getting over the temperature they want.
You know what I'm thinking, because that's something that Little Al mentioned to me when he was practicing for the race. It could be the case that we are looking here at different strategies, and maybe some people are not starting with a full tank at all. They could be going for 3 stops instead of 2. And that could very well explain the difference in pace and how, for example, people like Cesarius are going so brutally quick. Look at that.
Ooh, dearie me, he's actually going up the inside. Wow.
Oof.
Oh dear. Well, he went up the inside, but
yeah,
a bit too hot up the inside. And now he has to worry a little bit about Wilkes coming back at him, but I reckon you're definitely right about the different strategies. Because Slapinski now down the straight, that's definitely boost related. That has to be going that much quicker down the straight despite having not a great exit. Well, it'll be interesting to see, because obviously you will be doing one extra trip down pit lane, but will you be able to go fast enough to make up the time that you lose on pit lane with that extra trip?
Well, Etelal told me that at least from what he could see, you really gained a lot of time, and you were not putting so much stress on the tires. But probably many of these drivers are also thinking that it could be that the yellow helps them. I mean, if you got 3 tanks, if you got less fuel on the tank, then you're somehow more flexible in your strategy, because at any point, if you get a yellow and it's in a good moment, you could top it off and then go for the rest of the race, changing the strategy completely. I mean, probably it gives you a more flexible situation.
It's definitely a possibility.
Oh, Coxon spun. He's in the grass. He doesn't seem to be comfortable with the car at all today. He lost the position to Canola, but was able to stay in front of Wilkes.
Oh, that's he was just a tiny bit hot, got onto the curb on the inside of the exit, and then the car started to get sideways, and then he touched the curb on the outside, and he was very lucky indeed not to hit the outside barriers at all. But you're definitely right about that car.
Big train of cars behind Bouchard now. There is Jonatan, Peter Blom, and Juha Boss. And it seems that Bouchard is holding them down. It's what I was saying. This is a very, very narrow track. Very narrow. So look at Jonatan now. Will he be trying to make a move? But look at Bouchard. I mean, he's in the middle of the track. He's not making things any easy for the rest.
Slapinski made a mistake too and dropped time. He's down to 8th. And there's indeed a bit of a stack up in behind Bouchard there. Ooh, that's not a great gear change from Bouchard, but considering the time he's been away from sim racing, I'm very impressed with Peter Blom's pace at the moment. sitting in 14th and well within the striking distance of getting a top 10 at the moment.
And they are already lapping cars at the front.
They are indeed, and I noticed Fitch was being lapped, and
Grant Ridal now has a 5.3 seconds lead.
oh, and it looks like go on.
No, he basically just went off and said goodbye to everybody.
Indeed, and Tachak must either have made a mistake or got held up behind lap traffic, because he has some close company now by David Yates in the Domino's pits entry.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and there's a Penske off the road. Not sure which one. I just suppose it's Pajola.
Pajola, yeah. If it's a yellow car, it's Pajola. The other one is piloted by Luis Stephens. And then there's Little Al in our shared car. Yeah, that Penske PC16, it was an utter failure. Rick Mears, which Pajola is impersonating this year, was for more races in that car. But it was not a good one. It was very vague in the steering and it had lots of problems in that regard. So that was the last year that they kept the same designer. And on the following one, they got Nigel Bennett, which started that very, very successful strike at Penske with the PT17 and all the successive designs.
Oh, Tachak is off! Sorry to cut you off, but Tachak has spun on in the first chicane.
Oh, yes, he is. He's in the barrier.
Under pressure from Yates, and he ended it way too hot.
Although
he didn't strike.
Does not seem to be damaged.
No, he didn't strike the barrier. He just span off. Wow, that's. Oh no, he reversed into the barrier though, but that shouldn't be too bad, as long as he can keep it going. Well, he's got it going now. Back to 11th, and Juha Bors and Louis Stevens are both out. Dear me, whatever happened to those two? Oh, it looks like there's some. It looks like there's a disco for you, huh?
There is also for me, and it says session closed, so I'm out of the game now.
And for Louis Stevens, oh dearie me. And Grant Ridal is out, and Schlapinski out too. Dearie me, I really hope it's not mass disconnections. That would be very bad. Looks like Grant had one. Let's see, where is... There was someone else I saw on the list. Schlapinski too, so let's see. Just going to have a quick look and see if that happened to him too. Yes, it did.
A disco. Well, Slapinski has been suffering some of those already for some time, but
the rest usually doesn't, as far as I'm aware. That's so unfortunate. Really, really unfortunate. So that changes the landscape massively. That means Yates is now in the lead for Doug Shearson Racing. Coxon up to second for True Sports. Anders Nilsson third for Vince Granatelli Racing. Thierry Canola fourth for Newman Teamworks. Richard Wilkes fifth for Hemmelgarn Racing. Brian Yag now up to 6th for Gallus Racing, doing very well in the stand-in drive. Kyle Wesa up into 7th for Bettenhausen Motorsports. Ray Ridal 8th for Newman Haas Racing. Vadim Tachak up to 9th after his off earlier. And Jules Bouchard rounding out the top 10 at the moment for Alex Morales Motorsports. With McKeel's 11th, Jon Team 12th, David Saber 13th, Peter Blom 14th, Oscar Tim 15th, Alberto Jr. in 16th, Francisco Amaral 17th, Adam Hackman in 18th, a lap down, Alan Santo 19th, Bruno Pajola 20th, Mateus da Silva in 21st, Brun Chacon 22nd, and a further bit down, but still running, is Jan Kowalski for Leader Card Racing in 27th.
And it seems that both Fitch and Grant Ridal have suffered disco, and Luis Stephens. So I'm not sure why it happened. Sunday evening sometimes is complicated on the internet.
It definitely is, and sadly for them, it happened right now. So just checking out the distances here. Yates ahead of Coxon, Nilsson, and then Canola, followed by Hackman, a lap down, then Wilkes. A few seconds down to Yannick, who's closely pursued by Vesa. And then a big gap down to Vadim Tashak, now in 8th, so he's past Ray Riddall. And there's Jules Bouchard in 10th, so some very big gaps across the field. As my broadcast assistant wants some attention too. So let's do that.
Quickest lap now for David Jakes, who seems to think that probably Grant's idea was the best one. If you can run away and manage the gap later, that's the best course of action.
Yeah, it definitely looks to be the way he's doing it, and Jan Kowalski unfortunately has retired too now.
I wonder if that was a disco too. I'm not sure.
I'll see if I can catch that here and we can know for sure. Unfortunately, it looks like it happened quite a while ago, but looks like it happened too long ago for me to find out for sure. So Little Al and Oscar Tim still fighting over what is 15th and 16th positions.
Mm-hmm. Hard to follow the action here when you cannot have a look at the timetables and see how everyone is doing. But anyway.
Well, let's jump on board with Jon Tim as he looks up the inside of Jules Bouchard in turn 6. Not able to make it happen, and now into turn 7 and trying to get a run onto the back straight. Bouchard with a very tight entry. That should open up for Jon Tim to sneak up. Oh no, lap traffic in the way. That's Bajol, I think. Hindered that opportunity for Jon, and he has to wait for another opportunity. So Bouchard and Tim still fighting hard now over 10th and 11th.
Well, these guys are going really quick. There's a big speed differential, and like I said, I'm wondering about the the fuel situation for some of them. Because it would really surprise me much if they are doing all this with a full tank.
Definitely so. Jon trying to look up the inside into the first chicane, but not able to do it. But he has a great run coming out, but he can't find the way up the inside on Bouchard there and has to stay behind again. Looks like Jon is getting a little bit frustrated.
Yeah, it's complicated. Although you always have the magic button, you can do something with the boost knob. At least for 1 or 2 laps. But you also need to be aware of the engine temperatures. Because anything that is going above 150 degrees means that your engine is running in real danger.
Yeah,
Like
definitely
I
so.
said, complicated the passing here. In this backstretch, you might get the run, but the line is so. You need the whole of the track because it's so narrow. So when you are doing in that backstretch at high speed, you really need to go from left to right, go for the apex and all that because it's so narrow. It's complicated to pass. Here is
Ooh,
this is probably the cleanest possible situation going into the chicane, and he
he's trying
nope.
but not able to, and now Michiels is up to them too. And I believe David Saber is very close behind too. He is, as is Peter Blom. So this will be a long battle pack once again behind Bouchard.
And I think Coxon and Jakes are also now very close together. Seems
Oh,
that
Bouchard
Coxon
with a
has
half spin and loses
yips.
2 positions. I would hazard to guess. Odo K. Michiels can't work a way around, so Bouchard down to 11th. And Jon Team now free to go up into 10th and pull away. Let's have a look up the front where you were talking about Coxon and Yakes, and they are very close indeed. Right there, front wing to rear wing, and Coxon looking up the outside into the final chicane. And Yakes holds on for now. Ooh, and
Quite
that was...
remarkable considering that Coxon had a spin previously. Ooh, that car entering the that yellow car in the background. I
Yeah,
think it
that
was
was Little Al, I
Paciola
think.
Penske.
That was
Or
Little
was
Al,
it
I'm
Little
fairly
Al?
sure.
Okay.
He's very recently lapped, so trying to hold on ahead of the car I think he has for position behind him. Yeah, looks like the battle is on, and based on the roughly putting it in, breaking the race up into 3 sections strategy, 3 stops, that would be 4 sections. We're probably not too far away from...
Yes, if
Oh,
they are
sorry, 2
going
stops,
for
so about 10, maybe 15 laps away from the first stop.
yes, if they are going for 3 stops, they would be stopping. Well, they would be dividing the race in 4 stints because you always start with the tank already. Well, not full, but whatever fuel you want to load. So yeah, something like lap 25 to 30 could be the stop window for those who are opting for 3 stops.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what will come of it.
I think that Coxon is sensing here the possibility of forcing David Jakes into an error.
It's definitely possible. Oh, there's the error. Yakes hitting the inside curb in turn 7. Coxon looking up the inside, and Coxon takes the lead. Coxon True Sports up into the lead. David Yakes for Doug Shearson down to 2nd. One tiny mistake, hitting the inside curb just a little bit too hard, and the car got changed trajectory, and Coxon sneaks up the inside on the exit and takes the lead.
And it seems that Pajola finally abandoned. So the other Penske is also out of the race.
Yes, unfortunately he has indeed. There's Nilsson still in 3rd with Pagiola in 4th. Richard Wilkes currently sitting in 5th, with Calvesa now up into 6th, with Yannick down to 7th, and Tachak in 8th, with Ray Riddle in 9th, and Jon Tim has pulled away a little bit from the battle pack behind. Saber now in 11th, Michiels in 12th, Blum up to 13th, and Bouchard down to 14th. With Oscar Tim having passed Francisco Amaral. So Oscar Tim 15th, Amaral 16th, Little Al now 17th, with Hackman 18th, Alan Santo in 19th and making way for the leaders. Matthäus...
Something must have happened to Little Al because he was 15th. So I guess some incident there, or track excursion, whatever.
Could be that the moment we saw had further complications, maybe. Chacon 21st, and I believe the last car running. It looks like Jon Tim, while he pulled away from Bouchard, is being caught by the cars behind. That means Saber and Michiels are closing in, if only a little by little. Well, it looks like Yates and Coxon are still running nose to tail.
It was just a very slight error by Jakes. I mean, he gave the lead to Coxon, but it's not as if there was a dominant, distinctive difference that Coxon could make there.
No, I was more thinking that maybe his tires were slightly feeling that extra slide they got, but...
Hitting there the curb quite hard by David Jakes going into the chicane.
Indeed, but it looks like they were able to keep going. The problem there is that if he hits the chicane, the curb at the chicane, he's very liable to use that extra speed because he hasn't been able to retard the speed enough and make contact with Coxon as well because they're running that close. Running in a little bit too hot into that chicane was Yakes too, so he's definitely trying in behind Coxon. And one of the problems I believe Yakes will be having too is the loss of downforce.
Yeah, from running so close to the car in front. It's fortunately in these cars, because of the ground effects, it wasn't as pronounced as you got it in Formula 1, but yeah, it's still noticeable, of course.
It looks like he has dropped back just a few car lengths, trying to get some more air on the front wing and maybe try
Probably
to cool
down
the
the
engine.
tires too.
Yeah, indeed.
Because running so close to the car in front, it takes an effort. I mean, you're forcing the tires to do what the aero cannot do for you. More sliding of the front in the entry of the corners and all that, so it always wears out more, the tires.
Indeed. Oh, and Tachak now moving around Chacon, and 7 odd seconds to gain back on Yannick. And Ray Riddle up to 9th now. Sorry, he was 9th all along, but Tim still 10th as well, with Saber still 11th. And Michiels with some leader company behind him now. And that's how impressive the speed of the leaders are. 28 laps in and they are almost up to the top 10.
That was a good move by Coxon there, having left a lapped car between Jakes and him.
Very much so, and I don't think Yakes was expecting KO to go to the inside there, so I think Jakes may have lost more time than if Michiels. Ooh! He holds on to it. Had just kept his racing
Yeah,
line.
Michiels running there with the curbs. Anyway, in any case, we're up to lap 29 now. As far as I can tell, nobody has stopped yet. So there goes that theory about 3 stops.
Possibly.
Yeah, although you never know, because maybe people have decided that they would be doing a longer stint on the first tank with a full one, and then 2 shorter stints on less fuel. I don't know.
It's definitely a possibility. And again, I have to say, Wilkes with a very quiet race so far, sitting in the top 5, and I barely had to say his name other than when going through the standings as such.
Yeah, this is also one of the drivers that need to score some points here, because he did not have a good start of the season by abandoning at Phoenix, and I guess that was also the case for Grant Vidal, and it's a real shame that he had that disco. Probably he's suffering Michael Andretti's traditional bad luck also. We can consider this a mechanical failure, so to speak. But yeah, I mean, it's a shame because his pace was amazing, unquestionably the quickest driver on the field.
Definitely looked like it for sure. And as you say, it's one of those where a disco is equivalent to a mechanical failure. On occasion it could be considered just like for, was it, I can't remember, it was Al Jr. maybe in the early 90s. Had a 50 pence part break, and that stopped him from being able to win that race.
Mm-hmm.
Or for our touring car enthusiasts, it would be like for Glenn Seaton in 1990. Would have been 93, something. I think.
90 something.
93 it would have been, where they had been running calm, collected, not done much in terms of revving the car for the whole day, and then when Larry Perkins came up behind and they had to force the car a little bit, as soon as he revved it to more or less the rev limit, which was supposed to be more or less a safe rev limit anyway, the pistons immediately broke and he was out of the race.
And looking at the timetable, it would seem to me that Peter Blom has closed a bit to KO Michiels. They should be quite close together as far as I can tell from the timetable.
They are indeed. I think that's from KO hitting the curb earlier, and Blom is definitely putting him under pressure. Both of them with an equal mistake there. And that's on the grass being kicked up too, up ahead of them. Maybe Hackman moving out of the way. I see I'm on board with Peter Blom, returnee to ISO after quite a while away, and see how he is working this Machinists Union racing entry. And at the same time trying to find a way past KO Michiels.
Now they're coming to lap traffic, which could play a role.
There he goes! Really up the inside.
You can really see from these onboards. Yeah, nice one. You can see from these onboards how tight this track is. I mean, if the car is somehow in the middle of it, there is absolutely no room for another car in either side.
Yeah, especially if we look down this back straight here. I mean, the track is barely... Ooh, dearie me! The track is barely wide enough for 2 cars, and Hackman wildly tried to move out of the way. Blom wanted the for Hackman, wrong side of the car, and now unfortunately Hackman had to take to the grass to let Blom
Yeah,
past
even if
in the end.
Hackman obviously acknowledged that he knew they were there and tried to make room and all that, even so, look at how difficult it was.
Well, now McKeel's trying to get back, but not able to do so. Oh dear, I hope Hackman didn't have a big off. Okay, he's pitted. And is that Wilkes in the pits for Hemmelgarn? It
Let's
is.
see.
So I think that's the first car of the leaders on lap 34.
Quite a long pit stop, I should say. Maybe he could not. He had some damage and got the crew to fix it. But anyway, so lap 34.
And Oscar Tim in the pits as well on his lap 33.
What about our leaders?
Let's have a look. Ray Riddle heading into the pits from 9th. Looks like Coxon is in too on lap 35 for him. So 34 to 36 lap stints, I'd assume they are trying to break the race into then, to try and make it on 2 stops.
Let's see how it works for Richard Coxon. He's coming out now, but that was maybe a long pit stop, I don't know.
And let's actually ride on board with Coxon here, because something we noticed during practice last night, that cold tires is really tricky around here.
Yep. So he's in 6th now, I assume, from people that have not stopped yet. Jakes has not stopped, Canola, Vesa, Yannick, Tasiak. So no, but wait a moment. I mean, looking at the timetable, I would say that, well, I don't know. I mean, we need to look at it, but I don't think that none of those who are in front of Richard has stopped. So everything. Here comes David Jakes then also. But yeah, everything should revert to the proper order once everybody has gone past the pit stop. And my apologizes to the crowd, because I'm looking at the broadcast, because I also got the disco, so there is a bit of lag for me too. I'm commenting on what I see on the broadcast, but sometimes I'm a bit behind what Jonatan is saying.
So there goes Jakes out to pits, and he's down to 3rd. Let's see, 7 seconds to Coxon. I think Jakes will take the lead quite comprehensively here, or the effective race lead, because he got into first chicane now, and here comes Coxon. But also to note, he is on cold tires, so Coxon to 4th now, with Kyle Vesa exiting the pits. Let's see if Coxon can get close enough and get past during this opening lap for Jakes on cold tires.
And Jakes is also another driver who could not score well in the first race of the season, so that's why he is probably trying to make up for it here. Coxon instead scored well, so he is not so much under pressure. But it's early days, of course. We're only in the 2nd race.
Indeed, it looks like Jakes got about his 3.5. So say he gained roughly 5 seconds, I think, during that stop. And pit stop transition.
Whoops.
Yeah, that was a bit of a close call, but lived on to fight another day. And there goes Yannick and Canola into the pits too, and Canola nearly, I think, overtaking Coxon here, but Coxon just about able to get ahead of Canola, who locks up on cold tires, shortcuts the exit of the chicane and survives, but that was very close indeed for him. Now we have Yannick. Jon Tim down to 12th, so still some drivers to pit, I'd assume. Nilsson there in 5th now, after the pit stop, so he's lost a position there. As has Wilkes, I think. He was 5th when he pitted, and now down to 6th. So I think that's Yannick who's gained 2 positions in that pit transition too.
Yeah, Yannick, very talented. I mean, first out drive, and if I'm not mistaken, really first time he drove these cars, because he was installing them all this evening. When he saw the opportunity to step in.
I know he's done that before, so he can do it, but it is, I say that's quite the hefty task around this place with these cars, because they can be quite temperamental if you don't treat them right.
Pit stops continue. David Sever made it out.
So there's a 6th with Tachak in 7th and closing in. Yannick now pitted, so he hadn't pitted yet. Wow! So he was running very long, 39 laps he's done on that stint, if that's correct. Wow! So he should have some valuable fuel to burn during the last.
Yeah, I think that's
stint.
also the case for Little Al, who was in the pits.
Indeed.
And the others that were pitting in this lap.
Indeed, Peter Blum is one of them as well. 4 tires for him.
Although for those that have been lapped, now the fuel situation obviously improves, because they are obviously now not forced. Well, they can do 1 lap less. So. Well, I know for a fact that Little Al was having absolutely no problems with the fuel saving. So, whoops.
That's Peter Blum wanting to be out of the way on cold tires.
Yeah. So Little Al told me that he expected that he would do a discreet first stint, and then if he had saved enough fuel, and so it seems the case, he could increase the boost and go a bit quicker. Probably that's also going to be the situation for the drivers. We will see.
Oh, but he's into the pits. Is that another pit stop for him?
Well, that's weird. That's weird.
I wonder if he changed...
Maybe he got a stop and go? No. No.
I wonder if he changed tires, but maybe the pit crew didn't get the fuel hose connected enough. Well, that looks like a tire
stop. What's going on, but he's falling a lot.
Could that be a case of where he has put the qualifying tires on the car, and that was not the intended tire to be on the car for him?
Maybe he put worn tires. I don't know. Well, whatever the case, it's a shame, because he was running 14, and now he's dropped 2 positions.
Well, Oscar Tim is quite a bit ahead indeed on track, but looked like Little Al had some pretty decent pace, so he should be able to catch back up to him. And Francisco Amaral 14th now, Saber 13th, Blum 12th, Keone Keels 11th, with Jon Tim still in 10th after that pit stop. Ray Riddall in 9th, and not too far ahead of Jon Tim actually, as Jon passes his brother, both of them running Machinists Union entries. But I think slightly different year chassis on those 2 cars. I believe Jon Tim's car is an 86, and presumably then Oscar is running an 85 car. So Riddle 9th, Ryan Yannick out into 8th. Quite a bit behind Kyle Vesa, now down to 7th he is, because he's been passed by Vadim Tachak. So Vadim making his way up the field, the winner of last time out at Phoenix, working his way back up the field after his spin in the first chicane. Now he has his sights set on Richard Wilkes up ahead, and he will be held up by this traffic here.
Lots of traffic here in this backstretch before the chicane, always complicated.
It's one of those situations really where you go, there's only one place on this track I don't want to catch traffic, and you always catch traffic in that particular section. Nilsson 4th, so he has held on to his position none. Canola 3rd, having passed Nilsson before the pit stops, I believe. And still those 3 seconds. No, actually, Yates down to 2nd. Coxon has passed Yates out on track. Now 3 seconds the other way.
Must have been some kind of error because the distance is too big to have been made in just these few laps.
Indeed, it looked like Yates hit the curbing in turn 3, so could be something like that happened to him. That or a tiny error and then some lap traffic to cause him further time loss maybe. It looks like Richard Willix is closing in on Anders Nilsson, partly down to that traffic we saw earlier, but 1.5 seconds the difference at the moment. Well, someone has had a bit of a spin off the track there at turn 5. And it definitely looks like Wilkes is closing in because it's now down to under a second.
Wilkes is one of those drivers that is very calculating, so I can imagine that he has a strategy. You can see how he did not put up a fight with Vadim previously, prior to the pit stop. He didn't want to get tangled or hit by another car or whatever. He has his own plan for the race, and it's, I think, at this point, because we're nearly into the middle of the race, it's where everything is going to start to unfold and become clear.
It's definitely a possibility. And I wonder if the fact that Tatjak is starting to catch up has made him increase the speed as well.
It could be, although it's still early in the race, so to speak, to be running away from someone. I think it's more a case that he's doing his own race and he feels that because of the tire and the fuel situation, he can now start to put a bit more rhythm.
Could definitely be.
He probably feels that Anders is hampering him a bit. And well, the last thing that you want when you have your own plan, your own strategy, is to have a car in front that is blocking you and not allowing you to do the lap times that you know you can do while making the fuel and preserving the tires.
Indeed, and we can see Tatjak ever closing in too. And I mean, it's just like the last couple of laps, Wilkes has gotten close enough to where the dirty air would truly be hampering him, so...
Yeah, but I'm sure if Vadim catches up with them, Wilkes realizes it immediately if he's quicker, and he's not going to put up a fight. I mean, he would, of course, if we were like 10 laps from the end of the race and this could grant him the position, but if not, he's not going to do anything stupid, so... But we will see. Oops, Anders there climbing the walls now. Looks like he really feels the pressure.
Well, definitely using more road than what Wilkes is using in that chicane. That was a very smooth, fair chicane, so... He's doing well, and I think Tatjak made a tiny error, lost like a second and a half that lap. Because he was a little bit closer than what he is right now. That or he may have run a bit too hot for a few laps and has to just back off slightly to keep the tires on the car.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is of course also an aspect that the drivers needs to keep in mind. This is a March 87 versus March 87, and I believe we can see. It's actually 3 March 87, so this is a fully fair fight in terms of the chassis at least, between these 3 drivers. And it's also a very fair fight in terms of the engine, all of them running Cosworth engines.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately Alan Santo has retired in the last few laps, I just noticed, so that's unfortunate for him. Oh, and Wilkes has gotten past Nilsson. I completely missed that as I checked the list.
Now it's a matter of seeing what Vadim Tachek is going to do behind both of them.
Let's see on board with the Arciero Racing's Vadim Tachek and look ahead at the drivers in front as he is chasing and trying to get past. Now we can see what a tiny area can do. Just slightly hit the inside curb. The trajectory got changed a little bit, ran a little bit too wide, and that's 2-3 columns lost immediately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, consistency is really something that you need with these cars. It's not as if you can be left behind and then force the tires and make a sprint and pick up what you have been giving away earlier. No, you can't. I mean, you need to be consistent and all the time there.
Looks like Wilkes ain't leaving Nilsson for Dustin, yet at least. As you'll see behind, Kyle Vesa 7 seconds behind the cars in front, but doing very well in 7th there, in the March 86 that he is running.
Car from Tony Bettenhausen.
Indeed. Yannick in 8th for Gallus, still doing a very good job for his stand-in drive. Ray Riddall, consistent 9th. John Tim just a little bit behind in 10th, and he has Saber for fairly close company now, so Saber up into 11th. And Peter Blom not too far behind either in 12th. Okay, Michiels, as we just catch on to him, he went wide to try and let Coxon by and span. Let's actually try and see if we can jump on board here and see that on board. He also had some grass on the tires from running wide at turn 3. But that's the wide line.
Likely the cause.
Yeah, but that and combined with just trying to run a little bit wider to give the leader some room. That's how easy that happens around this place.
Yeah, although he was fortunate because he didn't hit anything. He spun in one of the parts of the track where it's actually safer.
Mm-hmm. There he lets Yates past as well. Amaral still in 14th. Alberto Jr. up into 15th. Only Justo trying to pass Oscar down the front straight for position. Ooh, side by side into the first chicane. That's scary. And Oscar has a tank slapper trying to hold on to the car on the exit, but looks like he has done so, but lost the position. So that's Oscar down to 16th and Little Al up into 16th. Sorry, 15th. Hackman up into 17th now with Chacon in 18th. Mateus da Silva 19th with Alan Santos' retirement. So Mateus da Silva now 19th and the final runner for the time being.
And we are nearly half into the race. Here we are, lap 52, the leader. Believe it or not, we are only one half into the race. It's been very eventful. But yeah, I mean, all the things that had happened so far could happen also inversely. So anything could be here happening towards the end of the race. No yellow flag so far. We haven't had any situation that warranted them anyway. But it's always something that make cause some changes in the situation.
Indeed. It's interesting.
9 seconds lead for Richardson at the moment.
Nearly 10 seconds, and that's he had 3 seconds, and he's been able to increase it by another 7, more or less. That's really impressive pace out of that car. So it definitely looks like, unless he makes a mistake or his pit crew mucks up the pit stop, he's very likely to be able to hold on from here, I reckon. Olaf third, 13 seconds behind Yates and 7 seconds ahead of the 4th place car now of Tachak, so Vadim has passed Wilkes. And Nilsson dropping back by about 3 seconds behind Wilkes, and Kyle Vesa now only 3 seconds behind Nilsson, so looks like Kyle may have upped the pace a little bit from what he was running a few laps ago.
Very good driver indeed, Kyle. He proved it in Phoenix, and he's doing a great job here today also.
Oh, Kyle McKeel's without a rear wing there. Ooh, that is looking scary. Let's see what that happened for him. Oh, he went off at... he got a bit of a tank slapper going, got loose out of turn... what would that be? Turn 5. And unfortunately, compared to... what... I can't even remember now because there's been so much happening. We saw a spin there earlier, and that was at lower speed. That was at more or less full corner speed going through there, and unfortunately ran out of space on the grass and hit the barrier quite hard. So that'll be quite a long pit stop for the pit crew to try and sort that car out.
Yeah, at least he was able to make it to the pits and go for repairs. So
every cloud has a silver lining, they say, and that's definitely a silver lining for him.
So this is going to be an opportunity for the people who were behind to actually make a position. That's Little Al and Adam Hackman and Oscar team. There you go. Little Al is now 15.
Up ahead, David Saber has gotten past Jon Team, and Peter Blom is right behind them too now. So let's see what happens here with this trio.
Not exactly what you would like to see when you're looking over your rear wing.
No, indeed, but I reckon you'd rather be ahead of them than behind them still.
Yeah, yeah, that's for sure.
Especially since that means a few more points. Looks like that Patrick Racing entry is very fast down the straight. And unfortunately for us, it looks like they have spaced out a little bit here. But not far ahead at all is Ray Vidal as well, so this could be a four-way scrap soon. Brian Yannick nearly a lap ahead of these guys in 8th. And Vesa now only 2 seconds behind Nilsson, so looks like Nilsson is the one losing pace at the moment, rather than Vesa maybe speeding up that much.
Yeah, I would say that he's not happy on the worn tires for whatever reason. So
Could definitely be the case. Canola 12 seconds now, so just a tiny bit of time gained on Yakes. And Yakes losing further to Coxon, now 30, nearly 14 seconds behind. That's amazing pace out of Coxon. Wow.
it's incredible how he can make the fuel and all that while keeping that pace.
For sure, but while that is very impressive, so is likely to be the four-way scrap for 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th here. As Saber is closing in on Ray Vidal, and not too far behind still is Jon Tim, and not too far behind him is Peter Blom.
Yeah, this is one of those situations where, I mean, you don't really want to be in that situation. Why? Because if you got so many cars behind you fighting for position, I mean, normally a small error is you lose one position, but here, a small error and you could easily be, bam, all of a sudden 5 places behind. That's quite demoralizing.
Definitely is. Looks like the gap opened up a little bit because Peter Blom is now 11th, Jon Tim down to 12th. So looks like Yannick lapping them has had Jon lose a bit more time than the others. Looks like Jon is being very cautious with letting the faster cars by. Blom and the others a bit more racy in their quest of letting faster cars by.
And maybe we should be looking at some pit stops in just a few laps. Because The first ones happened at lap 30 something.
33,
But remember,
33, 34 for some drivers, and
yes, but
35,
remember that
36.
drivers don't have full tanks. I mean, they have they can start with a full tank, but they don't have for the following stints. They don't have full tanks because there's not enough fuel that is allowed in the by the rules. So
True,
we could
true.
actually see it people dividing the fuel that is after the last stint, and in that case they would stop earlier.
Indeed, indeed. I'd say the most impressive thing about Coxon pace as well was that we saw that the March 87 looked like the more pleasant car to drive around here, but Coxon is running the Lola T87. It's like, how is he getting that much pace out of that car? That's a bit of a side note. As there he is on screen as well. But pit stop's definitely incoming, and it'll be interesting to see how that shakes up things. Because obviously, with the different fuel allowances, could be some drivers having faster pit stops or slower pit stops, simply based on the fuel they need. That lapping gave Ray a little bit of breathing space, so let's have a quick look and see. Looks like Nilsson has picked up the pace a little bit, or Vesa may have been held up behind traffic, but now 4 seconds to gap instead of 2. And 16 seconds now to lead, so Coxon just going faster and faster. Well, keeping the fast pace might be the more accurate description, but still. Jake still in second, with Canola in third still. Tachak still in fourth, and I believe closing in on... Oh, dear me! Just as I say that, Tachak has a moment and loses time. Wilkes in fifth. Nilsson in sixth. Kyle Vesa still in seventh. with Yannick still in 8th, and now a full lap ahead of Riddle, as not sure exactly who that was.
That's a red car there in the grass.
Mateus da Silva, maybe.
Okay.
Peter Blum up into 10th. Jon Team in 11th now. Saber down to 12th. Francisco Amaral 13th. Equino Alberto Jr. still 14th. Adam Hackman in 15th. Oscar Tim 16th. Keo Michiels slightly off the road there, possibly letting the faster cars by. Chacon in 18th. And Da Silva indeed in the area to be the car that we saw slightly off the road there in the final chicane. Oh, did I just see someone? Nope, okay.
So we should be approaching now the pit stop window for some cars, I guess.
Yeah, it should be very likely indeed. There's the question, who will bite the apple first? There's 34 laps left, so with the stint they've done during the first stint, that would be just on where they can go. There's a question of who wants to take that risk, as Adam Hackman off the road there, making some room. As I can hear someone in the pits, that's Yakes into the pits with 34 laps to go. So he is the first pit taker of the leading group.
Yeah, so I was expect. And I would say they did not put the full tank at the beginning. They have divided the fuel in these three stints. So that was the reason that they were going so quick. And probably what's going on is that many of the drivers behind have actually gone for 2 full tanks and then whatever is left of the allotted fuel. Yep, just barely. Oh, the cold tires.
Well, that, and I think slightly wanting to get out of the way of Nilsson at the same time. So
yeah. Nearly made it, but nope.
we know Jake's gained a little bit of time on Coxon last time they had pit stops, but ooh, this is looking way more shaky for Jakes during this outlap. And here comes Kyle Vesa too.
Yeah, it's forcing the car because obviously Vesa is behind him.
Well, looks like he's going to get out of the way for now. Another pit caller is Tatjak. Coxon out of the pits already, and Canola just ahead of him. So that's how big Coxon's lead were. Wilkes into the pits as well. Vadim in the pits, Nilsson in the pits. Here comes Vesa too. So all of them pitting with now 33 laps to go. So everyone following Jake's example and pitting now. It looks like Jakes is not going to gain any time on Coxon. And if he does, it'll be no more than a second or two. It definitely looks like Coxon had a better exit. Out of the pits than than Jakes did, because that's 18.5 seconds now, and I think unless Coxon makes a mistake, he will be holding on to that until the end. It'll be interesting to see how long Yannick runs. And oh, Kyle Vesa's out.
Really?
Dear
What happened?
me. I'll try to have a look now. Oh, he's off in what I think is the first chicane. It is right out to the pits.
Ah, he hit it on cold tires.
Ah, entered a bit too fast indeed, and then just couldn't stop in time. Aye, that's really unfortunate.
Yeah, and if your car gets airborne because you jump up, you lose all the downforce. So
Oh, that's very unfortunate for Kyle, but that's a lesson learned, and he'll be doing it slightly different next time, I'm sure. When we next time go to a road course of some kind.
which is actually the next race, where we will be at the Meadowlands, although that's more a street course than anything.
Indeed, but it'll still be the same kind of tires, so that kind of concrete canyon will be even more scary, I think, on cold tires than this track has been for outtakers today. And what do you think, actually? Will the Meadowlands, technically car park course, be a little bit different still compared to this, or do you think we'll see the same contenders up the front?
Well, the same people will be at the front because talent is talent after all. But Meadowlands is going to be a bit of a Russian roulette because it has all the things that this track has in terms of being narrow, in terms of being twisty and complicated to overtake. And on top of that, it has very unforgiving barriers on each side of the road. So things that some of the drivers have been able to get away with here, they are not going to be like that. So expect anything. There goes Brian Janik in the pit stop.
Yep, and Peter Blum as well. As Nilsson flies past in 6th, Wilkes in 5th, Tachak 4th, Yates in 3rd.
I think David Sabra was also in the pit.
Yep, and there goes Thiago Canola into the pits. Let's see how that goes with him compared to Tachak. They were fairly close together before the pit stop, about 3-4 seconds, I believe. There he goes out of the pits, so he should be able to exit the pit lane before anyone else, and there's Sabe exiting his pit stall as well. Let's see if Canola can navigate the first chicane. That's the most dangerous area on cold tires. Same for Saber. Looks like both of them have been able to do so. And there is Toucher quite a bit behind. And with lap traffic, so I think Canola, at least for now, is safe in 3rd. Although both the lap drivers getting out of the way of Tachak very sportingly there. So about 4 seconds still the gap between Tachak and Canola. With 19 seconds now the gap between 1st and 2nd. Säger du det, tjejen? Va? Kör. Yannick in 7th now, having pitted, with Rayrid all up into 8th, Peter Blum in 9th, Jon Tim in 10th, Sabre 11th, Amaral 12th, Equino 13th, Oscar Tim 14th, Hackman 15th, Chacon 16th. That's mainly because of Kyle Vesa's retirement. McGill's will be up to 17th in I'd assume about a lap here. No, yes he will. Now he goes up to 17th, and Mateus da Silva still a straight to go to be 18th in this race. 3 seconds now, the gap between third and fourth, so while we wait for that to possibly get tighter still in terms of time between them, let's actually return to the trivia question for this evening, so that everyone is reminded of what the question was and the answer to the question as well. So, the question for you all this evening was: who won the first kart IndyCar race held at Portland on June 17th, 1984? Was it A. Al Unser Jr., B. Jeff Brabham, or C. Theo Fabi? Any guesses on what the correct answer is, Alberto?
I don't know. I think it's too early for Al Unser Jr. to win a race. Theo Fabi. I don't know. I'll go with Al Unser just because a personal favorite of mine. I don't know. So, what would be the answer? Are you going to keep us on our toes?
I was sorting out the stream chat. There were some messages that shouldn't be there at all. And the correct answer is A. Al Unser Jr.
Well, that must have been then one of his first wins, if not the first, I guess.
Well, based on how young he looks in that picture, I'd think so, yeah. Possibly, I'd guess his first ever season in IndyCar. So, congratulations to Blue Moon as well for answering that question correctly. I'd assume you're an Al Unser Jr. fan on Blue Moon, if that was an easy question for you. And let's see, the difference now just over 2 seconds, so it's getting a little bit closer still between Tachak and Canola, and I believe actually there is a closer fight still out on track. Wilkes and Nilsson nose to tail now. Let's jump on board with Wilkes for a moment and look back towards Anders Nilsson's car.
And how fortunes varied. So it seems that Anders had indeed some problems with the tires in the previous stint. Remember that these drivers have been doing basically all the race with the tires.
Oh no, there's a blown engine! Anders Nilsson has blown the engine!
Oh.
Oh dear me. And Oscar Tim has retired too, so 2 Swedes in the space of a couple of laps. That's so unfortunate. I wonder if that was an over-rev or something.
Well, I don't know. It seems that the bad luck with the engines carries over from Ferrari to this new red car.
Well, definitely seems like it, because that's very unfortunate for him.
And just as I was saying that the drivers were doing all the race with just the tires allocated, and that it seemed that maybe in this stint Anders was on fresher tires. Well, there you go. Bad luck with the engine. So that must be a relief for Wilkes. Whoops! What happened there to David Jakes? How did he hit the barrier at that point? And we have a replay of that?
I'll have a quick look and see if I can get there. Oops. Let's see, here we are. Where did you say that happened?
Well, some moments ago, David Jakes was clipping the inside the barrier, but that was Jakes, not Coxon. He clipped it at high speed in the backstretch, but
Oh
it
dear.
was, I don't know if we will be catching it.
We did.
Yeah, look
That's
at that. I mean,
wow.
poof.
Oh,
I hope it had no consequences.
That looked like a bit of maybe late in the race, a bit of concentration issues, as that retirement for Anders Nilsson unfortunately means. I noticed that Peter Blom is up into the top 10 in his first race back in a couple of years. That's very impressive to keep the car on the track and keep plugging on, so to speak. And Sabre and Jon Tim running together here, 8th and 9th, and it looks like Jon Tim has some damage on the car. Ooh, Sabre running very deep there, trying to find a way around Tim. And Rebidor with his nice, quite consistent race up into 7th now. Yannick in 6th, Wilkes 5th. Tachak and Canola still running with a few seconds between them, now 4 seconds, so...
Yeah, we haven't talked much about Canola in this race, but it's amazing what he's doing with this year-old car.
Well, it's partly, as you say, talent rises to the top, no matter the machinery as such.
It does.
I mean, one of the biggest proofs of that was Ayrton Senna in 1984, in a absolutely soaking Monaco, where it would probably have been more suitable to do the race in powerboats, where he very, very, very nearly scored a win for Tolman. And it looks like Canola has turned on the wicket a little bit. Now 5 seconds ahead of Tachak. And Coxon continually increasing his lead. So even though he could just run to a set lap time and take it easy, he's still going very fast.
Well, you are into a rhythm and you don't want to make any changes. If it's working for you, you're making the flow. And in the previous stint, we have seen that the tires are lasting. The only thing that you can provoke with changing the rhythm is to have a lapse in concentration and problems. So
Very true. Very, very true. Sabre has gotten around Jon Tim now. So that's Sabre up to 8th, Jon Tim down to 9th. Thank you, Blue Moon. So the answer to our wanderings there was Al's first win with the Gallus Racing team. Whether he had a win prior or not, I honestly do not know, but thank you, Blue Moon, for that nice little piece of extra information there. Unfortunately for us, most of the battles is looking like they are more or less sorted here. At least for the time being. But what we can do for a very quick little notice to tell you about the next upcoming event, which will be next weekend with the Adak Norrisring Trofé 200 milen von Nürnberg. Bit Englishanized in the accent, but that's the second round of 11 of the 1978 DRM Championship, February the 13th, and it'll be divided into two divisions once again. Thank God, because Norrisring is a very short street circuit. It'll be close enough with the roughly 20 cars in each of the fields around that track.
Yep. It's well, a taste of what we will be getting at the Midlands, I guess.
Quite so, quite so. So if any of our drivers want to have a feel for that haven't got a car in DRM, or anyone else watching who wants to have a go, there is one BMW still available to be picked up for that race. So that should be an interesting one if you would want to drive. Back to the track, it's now 25 seconds for Coxon to Yakes, 8 seconds back to Canola, who is still eking up the distance to Tachak. Wilkes still in 5th, 24 seconds behind Tachak and 21 odd seconds ahead of Yannick. Ray Riddle in 7th, still with a nice gap to Saber, who is doing his best to pull away from Jon Tim in 9th, but Tim is still in close enough distance to where if Saber makes a mistake, Tim will take over the position once again. And rounding out the top 10 in his return is Peter Blom. Very impressive that. Impressive as well is 11th for Little Al here. Very nicely done in the...
Yeah, it's a shame he got that issue with the double pit stop, which I don't know exactly what it was about. I will ask him later. But otherwise he would be probably higher.
Well, he'd for sure be closer to Blom than what he is right now. Which of course also would mean he would be on the same lap, and maybe with a bit more of a inclination towards going a little bit quicker a lap, but
yep,
with a lap
as
difference
the situation is, he can only expect some people retiring in front, as otherwise he has obviously not many chances of getting another position.
Francisco Amaral in 12th, letting Tachak fly by there. Hackman 13th, Keo Michiels 14th, Bruno Chacon in 15th, Mateus da Silva up to 16th, and he is still the last car running here, but very well done to be up into 16th and in his first drive, I believe, here at ISO, holding on very well. Because with these cars, just finishing around this place is a achievement in itself.
Yep.
And it looks like Jon Tim is closing in on Saber now, 1 second instead of a second and a half.
And with all this happening, David Sabre is up to 8th. I think that's a really good thing because he needed that burst of confidence. Because he had been decently quick in the car all the time. He just had so bad luck at Phoenix, and I think this is going to do him a lot of good.
Definitely so, and also the fact that he gets to do a bit of a battle to get that position will be an enjoyable thing for him as well. Not just being fast, as you say, and being able to finish, but also just the thrill of having a bit of a argy-bargy to hold on to and or take that position. Oh, is Tim now looking up the inside in turn 7? That did not come off, but Jon showing that he is not giving up yet.
Complicated situation now with a car in front with a lap car, which is Little Al. They're going now into the chicane, but Little Al should now hopefully make room for them in the main stretch. After all, he has nothing to lose here. Let's see. Yeah, they are not close enough here. Go into the chicane like that. Okay. Yeah, there you go. He lets them by.
And Jon with a bit of a deep run there. And I believe the leaders now has 10 laps to go in this race. Sabre with a bit of a 2 stabs at the cake there in turn 7, and Jon closes back up. He's really quick into that final chicane. That looks to be Jon's strong point. Ooh, cutting it fine with that tire wall too.
Yeah, I told you. I mean, that white line is quite indicating of the difference between good and bad.
Here comes Jon with a good run. Not quite able to make use of it though.
Yes, it's the narrow nature of the track.
Indeed, and also the crowned nature of the road, where it's more or less a one groove race line through this infield section, because you need to have the inside line, otherwise the road is falling away from you, you have no grip. But he got a good exit there. He could have a slight opportunity down this straight. It looks like Sabre is a lot quicker down that straight.
Yeah, it's a Chevy engine for you. That's the advantage he has, although in any case, with all that going left and right and all that to clip the apex correctly, unless what happened to David Jakes that we saw before, it's not easy because the car in front is moving so much. You need to coordinate and time it well if you want to pass that.
For sure. Now Sabre
big legs for the Chevy here in the straight.
Both of them driving right on the limit, it sounds like, and looks like. Leaving nothing on the table right now. Jon was thinking about a dive up the inside, but not there. At least not yet. Maybe on the final lap if he feels he is really close enough. It must be so disheartening for Jon too. You can see him really working to try and get power down as early as possible, but still Sabre just like halfway down the straight. It's just bye-bye.
Yeah, but it's remember there's always two ways to pass a driver. One of them is doing it by brute force, by being able to really make your way past, and the other is forcing him into an error, which we have seen already several times in this race. So it's not as if Jon's work is so much in vain or so hopeless.
No, you're right in that, but it must still be somewhat disheartening that you can really see him working so hard to try and get Saber to move out of his way, but
Yeah, I don't think that the tires are really appreciating this a lot. So maybe at some point he has to back off a bit to cool them down. But in any case, that's also great bribing by David Sabre because he's doing it very cleanly there in the front, keeping it there, not letting himself be intimidated by John. And well, I'm betting he's also having a lot of fun.
both of them will have enjoyed this no matter how dense, but it's always the case of you want that extra position if you... No! Oh no! Jon Tim is off heavily and it looks like he'll be out! Dear
Oof, Little Al nearly collected him.
Oh, that's so unfortunate. Whatever happened there?
I think he overcooked the entry.
Looks like he was a bit too early on the power even. Yeah, he was too early on the power. The car hadn't settled yet and heavy into the tyre wall on the left-hand side on the exit of the chicane. And
well, you see, putting the pressure on the guy in front works both ways.
Indeed. That's really unfortunate, but I suppose the happiest bunny out of everyone on track with that will be Little Al, because that means he'll be up into 10th in what I think would be a lap or two's time. And I know for a fact that Jon will be somewhat disappointed with that outcome. But yet, I would hazard a guess happy with the effort he put in.
Mm-hmm.
This sort of looks like Coxon has finally decided to take it a little bit easy here. Gap has not increased as much as it has before. Oh no! Yates has blown up! Wow!
Ay, that's going to hurt in the points table.
Oh, it looks like it happened on the exit of the... Oh no, it's not on the exit of the first chicane. That's down in the infield, turn 5, this is turn 6. And it went as he changed gear from... Well, I'm not sure he would have changed gear, but when he was in third, and as it began to turn into turn 6, it just went on him.
Yeah, probably had over-revved it. I don't think it was a temperature issue, it was probably a matter of having hit too many times the limiter.
Well,
or bad luck, simply.
Well, that or simply... The engine had called it quits there. I mean, the drivers have been going for 1 hour 40 minutes, so I'd assume we're closing in on what would be the sort of projected...
yeah, it's 4 laps to go now.
Yeah. Actually 2 laps to go for the leader.
Yeah, sorry, because we were looking
a bit
at
further
the car
down the
that
field
was lap.
indeed.
Yeah, so it's 2 laps.
Well, that means Alberto Quino now up into 10th, and I believe it'll mean...
yeah, that there are not enough laps
maybe?
to get another position, I think.
Well, hopefully for Jakes he will still be classified for a few points in this race. But that's unfortunate. That's 2 races in a row. Ooh, yes. I think that's... Not sure. Would that have been Brun Chacon maybe with a slight error in the final bit of the race?
I'm not sure.
As we are now, I believe at least, on the final lap of this race. With Coxon with a 32-second lead and Ray Riddall to lap ahead of him. I think with the gap he has, he may just decide that, I'll run in behind Ray until he either moves over or keeps ahead. He definitely looks to be taking it easy, but there he goes. Ray wants him to go past, and Coxon complies, and here he comes through the final couple of corners into the final turn and onto the start-finish straight. And I never learned how Automobilista does laps. This is the final lap. My apologies for that slight error once again. Won't have been the first, and definitely, and most likely won't be the last either. But you have to say, Coxon has put on a masterclass this evening.
Yeah, remember, he even had a spin at the beginning of the race.
Indeed.
It was an impressive drive. Very Bobby Rahal-like, I guess.
That's a very, very well put together comparison. And now into the final chicane. He could probably blow the engine here and still make it to the start-finish line. Through the final turn, nice and easy going through there, and coming towards the start-finish line. Coxon takes the win here this evening with an absolutely stunning drive. Absolutely fantastic effort to take the win. Looks like Thiago Canola will be taking the second place finish here tonight. In another stand-in drive for him, for Newman Teamworks, and again, really impressive to see him work these cars. Here he comes towards the start-finish line, and second place for Canola. And very soon to cross the finish line too will be Vadim Tachak, who I believe will, with this third place, still hold on to the lead in the championship standings. As there he goes, third place for him. Richard Wilkes has finished fourth, with Brian Yannick finishing fifth in a standing drive for Gallus. Very well done, or based on the speed he's going, he might still be heading towards the start-finish line here. Ray Riddle has finished sixth. Saber finishes seventh, with Peter Blom in eighth. David Yates will hopefully for him be classified ninth for a few points at least. And Alberto Quino finishes in the top 10 in 10th for Penske Racing. Francisco Amaral finishes 11th, with Keo Michiels in 12th. Adam Hackman looks to be out of fuel in 13th, just after crossing the finish line. Bryn Chacon finishes 14th, with Jon Tim unfortunately retired in 15th. And Mateus da Silva, I believe, last car running, finishing 16th. Our retirees, along with the others, were Anis Nilsson, Oscar Thiem, Kyle Vesa, Alan Santo, Jules Bouchard, Brun Pagiola, Cesar Slapinski, Grant Riddle, Juha Bols, Lou Stevens, Jan Kowalski, Jason Fitch, and Luciano Rocha.
So I have to say goodbye at this point. As you know, I have to run. I have to do some housekeeping, and then I'll be going for supper. Always a pleasure to be here with you, and speak to you later. Have fun, everybody.
Thank you very much.
User left your channel.
Many thanks to Alberto for joining me for this broadcast. We ended up running quite late into the evening today, but good stuff by everyone. Really good effort by all our drivers tonight. Let's see. Let's do...
Channel created.
that.
User joined your channel.
And that was a very exciting race overall, and joining us in the booth now is our winner, Richard Coxon. Congratulations on that, what turned out to be dominant victory. You must be very happy with that.
Yeah, thank you. Very thrilled. Not the perfect race, made a couple of mistakes. But yeah, the car just did everything I wanted. Over the moon with it.
User joined your channel.
It did look like, at least in the warm-up, the March 87s were the car to have, really, but you were sort of the lone Lola with a lot of pace. Was that easy to get out of the car setup-wise, or how much time did you actually need to put in to get that kind of speed out of it?
Oh, put a hell of a lot of practice in. I was still changing things on Saturday before the race, so I mean, the speed's always there, but it's just getting yourself comfortable in the car. That's always the main goal. I think if you can get comfy in your driving and consistent, then the speed will come.
That's a very fair description. We also saw you have a bit of an oopsie in the first chicane, say 10-15 laps into the race. Did that put you off at all, or was it easy to get back into the groove right away?
It was easy to get into the groove. I think I got a bit frustrated, stuck behind David. I mean, nothing against him. He made a better start than me and jumped me. But yeah, I don't even know what I did. I think I just got a bit keen on the loud pedal, and around she went. But yeah, the car was nice to drive, so it was easy to get back into a rhythm.
That's good to hear. And speaking of
User joined your channel.
Dave, you had a battle with Yakes after the first set of pit stops. We didn't quite catch how you got past him in that battle.
I know on my outlap out of the pits, I had an off and spun. And then when he came out and I got close again, he ran wide, coming out of the final chicane. And that was enough for me to nip down the inside.
Alright, so that's what happened. Okay. And I suppose finally, with this success on a road course, with Meadowlands coming up next in the car park race, how would you rate your chances going there for the next one?
I'll say the same as I did at Phoenix, top 5 again. That's the target. I've never raced at Meadowlands, so that's a new experience. So, but looking forward to it. I'm sure it'll be fun again.
Good stuff. Thank you very much for joining me for the interview there, and congratulations once again on the win. Trying to remember the order. Finishing second was Thiago Canola, also joining us in the booth here. Congratulations on second place, mate.
Thank you, Jonatan.
A lot of stuff happened in the race. I'm trying to rack my brain for all the interesting things. I suppose the start looked quite hectic a little bit further back in the field. How did you find the start on the somewhat cold tires and 29 cars on the grid?
Yeah, that was one important thing even before the race, because I was even checking the times in the qualifying just to see where I would put my car. I wouldn't like to be packed like 14th. I would like to be all top 5 or far away in the back of the grid. So to avoid any kind of accident. So everybody, I think, was tiptoeing the first lap. The tires were pretty cold, and the brakes as well. And I was very careful, and I was trying to, not losing any position, and everything worked pretty good.
That's good to hear. And got so much happening in this race. You had, I suppose, not a wheel-to-wheel battle, but time-to-time battle with Vadim. How did you find that situation with the time? Looked like it was constantly between, say, 6 and 2 seconds, going up and down between each and every lap.
Yeah, he was very close. I think there was a moment he was like 1 second behind me, and then I start to feel okay. I have to start push. I was already at the limit, but I wasn't pushing too much the revs. So I started to rev a little bit higher the engine. So that was how I could open the gap to him. But my car was very, very loose, and I knew he was pretty quick in the middle sector. My hope was just to, if in case he was like side by side with me, I could defend using top speed. But I wasn't very confident about that too, because in the braking areas he would be much more efficient.
Well, it worked out for you, so that's I take it you're very, very pleased with that and scoring some more points towards the championship. Looking forward to next round at the Meadowlands, the car park race. Also, I suppose could be called the Concrete Canyon race. How do you rate your chances there?
Yeah, I like that track. We had raced there before, another season. But first I have to get a car, right? I don't have a car yet. So once I get the car, probably I'll see what would be my chance depending of the equipment I will have.
Fair enough. Well, congratulations on second either way, and I hope we'll see you back for Meadowlands as well.
Thank you.
And the final driver joining us in the booth now is Vadim Tachak, finishing third. Congratulations on that.
Yeah, thank you. Congratulations to the podium finishers, of course, and everybody who made it. Beautifully modeled track, really. Driving-wise, very unforgiving. Didn't like it at all, quite honest. I was fast, but yeah, the track looked really nice, really nicely modeled. So yeah, was a great job there. And quite a comeback drive for me. I had a brain fart in the first stint. Grant and me, we got away pretty nicely. And yeah, well, I just had a brain fart into the first first chicane, and had to wait. Had to let everybody past. I think it was, I don't know, P13, 14. I don't care even more anymore. And I had just one thing in mind: save as much fuel as possible, pit later as everybody else. And yeah, in the end, it worked out. Plus, you have to be lucky, or somebody else has to just be very unlucky. So yeah, Grant, I don't know what happened to him. I don't know. I know what happened to Jake. His engine blew. So at that point, I saw that, and I just revved down, boosted down, and just drove it home because I was pushing the car quite a lot in certain situations. And yeah, it was just 2 stints of recovery driving there. Crazy. I'm super exhausted, but yeah, well, P3 in the end.
Well, I think with
Luck.
that P3 you will have held on to the championship lead with the 2 extra points you scored last time out as well.
Oh yeah, right.
And
Oh yeah, right.
And you really surmised your race very well there. So I suppose we'll go to next round at the Meadowlands. How do you rate your chances there?
I don't know the track. same as this one, like the one we just raced. I just had to learn the track. I never been here before, so yeah, I'm just curious what will happen. Let's see. We'll be prepared, of course, and yeah, looking forward to it.
That's good to hear that you're looking forward to that. So thank you to all our drivers, Coxon, Canola and Tachak, for joining us for the post-race interviews. And congratulations on your podium positions this evening. And with that, this was a crazy race. Really good fun to broadcast it. Thank you to Alberto for joining me for color this evening. And thank you to all our drivers who partook in this race and all of you for tuning in and enjoying the show. Until I believe it'll be a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks until next time. No, sorry, the DRM next weekend, Jason. Take care of yourselves until next weekend, of course, because that race, at
User
least
left your
preliminarily,
channel.
will be broadcasted. The DRM race at the Norris Ring. But until then, next Sunday, take care. Enjoy yourselves, and we'll see you all then. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. Good evening.